Hi everyone. Today I thought I would do a fun, quick video based off of a blog post I originally published on the 30th of January 2023 called How Writing is Like Figure Skating, particularly because, I'm such a big figure skating fan. I have a prior video based off of a three-part blog post talking about like the history of figure skating and how to write about like figure skating in historical fiction. So let's just get down with it and let me know down in the comments if you guys can think of any other reasons which I did not mention, and if you like skating yourself, or like if any of these personally spoke to you. And obviously, of course, this is one of those videos with which has both booktube and authortube crossover appeal for both obviously the people who are writing and obviously also the people who are reading and noticing these things even if they're not personally writing them themselves. So anyway, number one, very rarely are you perfect from the very moment you begin. Even novice skaters and writers who show great early promise, stunning talent, and unusual maturity and sophistication still have to hone those qualities and learn how to put them together for the complete package at the highest level, and do it at the right time when the right people are watching. Not obviously if you're doing it when no eyes are on you, that doesn't really count. You have to have people noticing and praising you for it, obviously. Number two, great skating programs and books work by seamlessly weaving all the elements in and out. Skaters learn how to transition from one element to the next without looking like they're setting it up. The judges really, really do not like that. And they don't cluster all the jumps together. I'm so glad they finally, changed this stupid rule that said, oh, you get extra points and you can totally game the system legally by just dumping all your jumps in the second half. So you're just prancing around, modeling and posing on the ice for the first half of the program because you just want to get those points up there. So glad that was ended. Likewise, writers learn how to incorporate research, character development, dialogue, continuity, foreshadowing, and plotting into a blended, cohesive whole. That was one of the reasons I have a video from about 2 years ago or so why I didn't like the book Rashi's Daughters, the first one in the trilogy by Maggie Anton. I haven't read the other two yet, but I'm told they're not really much better. So one of her things is she's constantly just dumping all this research on the page. Oh, we're talking about this thing, or this other thing is happening. Oh, boom. Oh, here's a big info dumpy lesson on French politics or parchment making or wool carding or something like that had nothing to do with anything. So, oh, I did all this great research. I don't really think it fits into the story, but I, better put it to some good use. Here it is, dumping it on the page. So no one really likes reading that. It's just so amateurish. Number three, almost everyone has one complete meltdown skate, terrible showing in an event, or awful first draft. Those experiences are important to growth and development and often give us the fire to come back much stronger. Sometimes we need to fail to realize just how badly we need to learn better or different habits. Number four, some coaches deliberately send skaters to a competition they know will be a failure. I could give you so many examples of that. Likewise, some writers enter contests they know there's a slim chance of winning, and query agents they don't expect a yes from or even a form rejection. It's more important to gain experience and discover which skills exactly most need developing. And that ties back into number three. Sometimes you might kind of understand it deep down, but you don't really want to admit it. But when you actually publicly fail so spectacularly and humiliatingly, it really dawns on you, wow, we really weren't as good as we thought. Time to go back to the drawing board. I don't want to do that again. And boom, you write a much better draft, or you edit the book to you couldn't even tell it was a hot mess first draft because you edited it so brilliantly. You start rising up the ranks with your new partner or with your brand new skating career or whatever, and suddenly you're winning gold medals in 5 years. So just sometimes you need to fail to become even better. Number five, sometimes skaters develop bad habits, like instinctively popping jumps out of fear or a lack of confidence. A pop is when you're in the air and you realize you can't land the jump, or maybe you're about to fall, or just whatever, your mind is jacked, you're not thinking, and so you just pop a triple axle into a single axle, or just something like that, or you don't even attempt any kind of jump, even a single jump. You just go land back on the ground without trying. It's just some people disagree if it's just like, oh, I'm getting nerves in the heat of the moment, or oh, I realized when I was in the air, this is terrible form. I should have known better. I won't be able to land it, so I'm just going to like pop it to save face so I will not have an ugly fall all over the ice. These skaters are perfectly capable of landing the jumps, but have that moment of panic. These habits can be overcome through training and getting back into the right mindset. So too it is with writers who fall into bad habits, like how I recently realized I went into permanent editor mode even when I wasn't editing. And yeah, obviously it's up to you to learn how to correct that and start like making better decisions, and so you don't fall back into the bad habits. Like just realizing it isn't good enough. You have to actually take active steps to correct the problem, and then eventually the good behavior will become just as much of a good permanent habit as the old bad habit was. Number 6, the wrong choreography, program, or partner can be the completely wrong fit for a great skater. Just like some good writers flounder with certain genres, storylines, POVs, points of view, or tenses. Like for example, like I would be totally out of my league, wouldn't know what to do. I would totally flounder if I made an attempt at writing epic high fantasy. Fantasy isn't my bag at all. I did write a short story, a middle grade historical fantasy story for a contest I entered. I think it was in 2019. It was set in Nara, Japan, in the year 737. So basically like historical fantasy, which kind of grounded in the real world, is pretty much the biggest fantasy I'm gonna get. I'm not gonna do anything that's not based in the real world or history. I'm not gonna do elves and magical forests and whatever. I don't even know these characters off the top of my head because I do not read fantasy at all. Like dragons, well, dragons are cool, but I guess they could be in some fantasy with a crossover. Magical realism, I guess, is the subgenre I'm looking for. It's basically or urban fantasy, set, or the historical fantasy I was writing as well. It's basically set in the real world, like pretty much all the real world rules apply, but there are, fantasy creatures coming in and out and some magic, but it's not completely in the realm of like epic high fantasy, like for example, Lord of the Rings, which I have still not read any of those books to date. I tried to read The Hobbit twice when I was like 12 and 13 years old. I didn't get like past the first or second chapter, and I've never attempted again in all those years. So I don't know, maybe it's worth a shot just to say I read it and know how it, well, I haven't seen the Hobbit movie either, but just, to know how it differs from the movie if I ever do see the movie, or just to have firsthand knowledge of a very, famous popular book. And also on the, flip side, as a historical writer myself, I can always tell, like even if it's just an excerpt I'm reading like for free on Amazon or something, I can tell if this writer isn't really like a historical person. Oh, I was just doing this because it was cool, or like Russia is trendy right now. And everyone loves a World War II story, or the American Civil War hasn't been getting a lot of attention and love recently. Maybe I can try that and start a new trend. And I'm just seeing it. This person, it seems to be wanting to write a contemporary story, but all the characters have very contemporary morals and speech and behavior patterns and things like that. It doesn't feel at all like it's in the past, and this person didn't do like jack squat research. It's like the so-called Gossip Girl in period clothes. It's just, it's a past setting, but I'm just gonna like dress it up with like pretty poofy dresses for the ladies and maybe some like swashbuckling for the gents or something like that. Or I'm gonna mention cars or fashion trends or like a hot movie star or something. But other than that, it'll just feel like a contemporary story, and it just happens to be set in the past with some like sugary window dressing. I can always tell when a person is not a good historical fiction writer, or just got into that and just blasted full speed ahead without bothering to read examples of the genre and like learn how to write it over time. But anyway, rant over. Number 7, skaters tend to go through a rough spot, particularly the females, when their puberty growth spurt occurs with lots of uncharacteristic mistakes. And because, I'm not trying to stereotype or anything, but we know most like female skaters have a certain body type, like women who are built like I am. They're generally not particularly well suited to figure skating. I would love to get back into skating seriously, but I know I would definitely never be, a serious professional competitive skater, not just because of my age, but because of, my body type. If I were going to try to do any kind of professional or competitive skating, I would probably be best suited to speed skating, because that just, complements my body type. And so anyway, these like skinnier like female skaters, they tend to go through puberty a bit later than most other females because they have to basically, keep that body type as long as possible so they can, land certain jumps or just, be like better skaters in general, because obviously we have different centers of like gravity and balance and stuff between the sexes. It's obviously, oh, that's a whole topic for a other thing, but obviously there's, like strengths and weaknesses between the way each sex does skating. And so they have all these like uncharacteristic mistakes when their puberty growth spurt occurs when they're like 16, 17, 18 years old. I know that's way later than the average female, but again, like skating world is different than normal world, particularly because they have to encourage that prepubescent body type for the best skating possible. And that's obviously a whole other thing. Like, should they really be doing that? Should they encourage like healthier like training? I know this is totally getting off topic. It's not that they forget how to do the jumps, but rather that they're not used to the new proportions of their bodies yet. They have a new center of gravity, a higher weight, longer legs, and thus need to learn how to do the jumps all over again with a technique tailored to that changed size and shape. Likewise, riders who hit a rough patch are able to come back swinging because they still have all the necessary skills and experience, even if they have to start doing some things slightly differently. Number 8, one of the first things skaters learn is how to fall properly, and I'm also told this is a big thing for people learning skiing as well. Of course, no one wants to fall, but it's kind of inevitable when you're balancing on such thin knives on slippery ice. The best you can do is fall with safe, proper form so you can quickly get back up and minimize the risk of injury. Likewise, riders should prepare themselves for not always doing so well. Number 9, skaters immediately, instinctively realize they're off kilter in the air, but good skaters will fight for that landing, even if it's two-footed, with a hand down, or with very shaky form. They don't passively give up and let themselves splay across the ice like a limp ragdoll with an ugly fall. And I could give so many examples of skaters who have ugly falls. Like I know, like Sorry Not Sorry, like Nancy Kerrigan is a huge example. Like she fell in pretty much every competition she ever entered except the 94 Olympics. And she even fell in the gala event when she was skating. Like I don't think I've ever seen many other skaters who fell that many times and who like still managed to get medals. Like what was going on in the judge's mind. So anyway, likewise, good writers fight to get back on the right track or complete a manuscript when they're struggling. Number 10, no one likes making mistake after mistake in front of a huge audience and knowing there's no chance of a medal, but a good skater needs to push on and finish the program no matter what. He or she may have finished dead last or not qualified for the free skate, but at least she or he didn't give up. Likewise, it's important to keep writing every day of NaNoWriMo if you're doing that. I'm not doing that anymore, at least until they clean up the whole scandal. That's the whole thing for its other topic, or at least, write every day of another event you're doing, or just like every day in general, even if it's not tied to any kind of contest event. Even when you know you won't come anywhere near your goal or get to the last word of a hot mess first draft that's taking years to complete. Lucky number 11. It's common for a skater to start out being really strong on jumps, but sorely lacking in artistry and connecting elements. Only time and practice can bring together the complete package. Likewise, some writers start out great with descriptions and dialogue, but aren't very strong on character development and plotting. Number 12. No skating program or book will be across-the-board perfection every single time, but when they are, it's oh so meaningful and worth every minute of training or editing. However, there is one major difference between skating and writing. You could have 1,000 perfect practices, but all that matters is how you perform on the actual day. Those great practices are meaningless if you miss all your jumps in competition and you have no chance to redo that program. But in writing, you have the opportunity to edit and polish a hot, disjointed mess into perfection. Thank you very much for watching all the way to the end. Please consider leaving a comment. Let me know what you thought of my points. If you think like writing is like skating in that way, whether you're a writer yourself or you're just a reader, or maybe if you are both like I am, like anything I miss, like tell me about your own favorite skaters if that's your thing. Do you like reading books about skating, either like fiction or nonfiction? which skaters wrote your favorite, like, memoirs about the skating world, just like things like that. I really enjoy having conversations with these guys, and please consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I will see you very soon. Thanks again for watching. Bye.